Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another session by K21 Academy. Today, our expert will be discussing about AWS Inspector. So let's get into the video.
Hey there, welcome back. This is Atul from team K21 Academy, and in this lesson we are going to look at Amazon Inspector. So first let's look at what is Amazon Inspector, and then I'll tell you what exactly we're going to cover in this lab. So Amazon Inspector is an automated security assessment service that helps you in improving the security and compliance of the applications deployed on AWS. What Inspector does is it automatically assess your applications for app exposure, vulnerability, and any deviations from best practices that you may have. It'll it can deploy an agent on EC2 and find out any vulnerability inside the application running on EC2. It can also do the network level assessment, which will tell if there's any port which is being exposed. Um, for example, if you have opened a FTP port, then it will highlight, hey, FTP port is open. Similarly, if you have application that is not as per the best practices, you can deploy or it can alert you based on the machine learning algorithm. So that's what Amazon Inspector does. So in this particular lab, what we are going to do is we are going to set up a Amazon EC2 instance, and we'll use Inspector to find out if there's any um, security risk we have done for EC2. And I'm going to use, in this particular example, we are going to open a port number which is FTP port, which is port number 21, which is not considered to be secure usually. So what you do, if the minute we open it, it'll alert us and says, hey, you have a port number open, port 21 open. So then you can take a corrective action. The tool itself can take a corrective action for you, or you can alert and then administrator can manually take the action for you. So that's what this Amazon Inspector is going to do. So let's look at what we are going to look or do in this lab. So first chapter is going to be about introduction. And in that introduction, I've already mentioned to you, but worth reading one more time. Chapter number 2, which is about documentation link, will refer you or will point you to all the documents specific to Amazon Inspector, which we have used in order to find out the right documentation which we have used in order to prepare this document. Then we'll set up a EC2 instance, and then we'll use Amazon Inspector for this EC2, and then finally, we will open up some port, for example, port number 21 in this, which will highlight that when the tool runs next time on a given time frame, it will alert and say, hey, port number 21 is open, and then we can apply the fix so that we don't get any alerts or notification. And then finally, we'll remove all the resources so that we don't get charged. So let's look at in the documentation scenario, what we are doing. We are first creating an EC2 instance and then open port number 21, as we said. We'll do it based on a tag. So we'll create a tag. We saw tag is nothing but adding an extra description onto EC2 instance, and we'll filter out based on that particular tag to monitor a particular EC2 instance, or you can configure it to monitor all the EC2 instances as well. We'll define an assessment target. We will define assessment template. There are defined pre-built template that comes. Based on that, it will evaluate the security and then finally review and give us the result or finding. So first thing is we are creating an EC2 instance for that can be checked by our inspector. We are using Amazon's Linux 2 AMI. We will define a public IP. We'll auto assign a public IP onto this, and then we'll put two tags. One is name is prod instance, and second is environment as production environment. Now you can put any tag of your choice. We'll filter when we are putting inspector. We are filtering based on this particular tag and say any instance that has this tag run this particular or monitor this particular filter, or based on or apply the inspector on the instances that has these filters. And then we will be opening the port across firewall. We'll open port number 22, and we'll also port number 80, which is the HTTP port. And once this is instance is created, we will go to the EC2 instance and then go to this security group, which is nothing but a firewall. and we'll open the firewall, we'll add it inbound rule, and we'll open the port number 21, which will have saying that port number 21, which is a security threat, which is a FTP port. And then we'll define an assessment target through inspector, which I'll explain you in later once the EC2 environment is created. So I'm on this AWS console. You search for EC2 here, click on EC2, and we've already created this EC2 environments in past when we were creating in module 2. So same thing we are doing here, but we are opening up some extra port and creating some tags. So click on launch instance. We are going to put Amazon Linux 2 AMI x86. Click on select. We'll pick the free one under free tier. So K21Academy, which is free tier eligible. Then click on instance details. This is where we'll be using and say auto assign public IP, and rest all are fine here. Click on next add storage. We'll leave the default 8 GB storage. Click on add tag, and this is very important that we want to filter them based on a tag. So I'll apply the two tags. One is we are saying name is equal to prod instance. So click on add tag, name is equal to prod instance. And then one more tag, which is environment is equal to production. Environment is equal to production. And then click on next configure security group. And this is where by default port number 22 is open. We'll add one more port, which is the port HTTP port, which is web server port 80. Click on review and launch. Verify all the details here. And it's giving me a warning saying that the security is open, which means port number 80 is open. Usually they recommend to open port number 443, which is a SSL port instead of 80. But since this is a test environment, we're just playing it and then checking with inspector this. Now here you're checking the key pair. We discussed what is key pair in past when we were in module 2. This will be key pair will be used to connect to this machine. So I'm using one of the previously created key pair, and I'll use that key pair on creating or connecting to my machine. Click on I acknowledge that I already have this key pair, and click on launch instance. Once this instance is launched, we'll go to the view instance, and I'll be opening up this port number. So this is the environment which I've created. Click on this environment or machine, and under security, if you scroll down, there's a security group, which is nothing but a firewall that says that port number 80 and 22 are open, and these are open from internet. And this is for my IPv4, this is for IPv6, and port number 22 is allowed as well. So I want to open one more port, which is 21. So we'll click on the security group, and then we'll say that edit inbound port here, which means we are allowing port number one more port. We'll say add rule, and here we'll be using FTP port here. So let's see, we have FTP port. So we don't have FTP. We'll open a custom port, and instead of port number, we'll say port number 20, and we'll be opening it from 0000, which is from internet, and description will say that FTP port not secure. And then once we have added it, click on save rule. And now if I go back to the EC2 environment or instance that I created, under instances, this instance that we created just now, under security, you will see one more port number 21. Now, once this is done, I'm all good, and I'm now ready to update my I've already modified this EC2 instance, and now I'm all ready to configure my inspector. And in that inspector, I'll say that start the inspector, and I'll explain these settings inside the configuration which I'm telling. There are two ways to configure this inspector, basic and advanced. We'll go with advanced and we'll manually configure it. So let me going on search bar here, and we'll say inspector. Click on this inspector here, and this is where you click on get started. And now there are two assessment setups. One is for network assessment, which will tell what all ports are open at a network level. What is the security loophole at the network level? For that, you don't need inspector agent. So there is an agent that gets installed. But if all you need is a network assessment to see if there's any extra port open, then you don't need the inspector. However, if you want on this Linux machine or this EC2, which could be a Windows or Linux machine, if there's any security vulnerability. So if there's any problem on the application, or there are Center for Internet Security CIS benchmark, a server hardening, or any security best practices, if you have to check for those, then you're going to run a host assessment, and for that you will need inspector agent. That's what it's saying. So we are not running or we are not configuring for this assessment setup from here. We are saying I want advanced setup. So we'll click on it, will go on advanced setup. And from here, we will define a name of this assessment. So name of the assessment will say that assessment target. So name of the assessment will say that prod instance. You can put any name. So we are saying prod instance assessment, or you can pick any name. Now, instead of doing it for all the instances, I want to do it for selective instances. So we'll say KPA, and my environment name is production. And so you can filter out and saying, I'm going to do it for the environments that has production. I want to run it only for the production environment. You can decide which one you want to do. And now I am also installing the agent, because I also want any application running on EC2, I want to be notified about that as well. If there's any security vulnerability inside that instance as well, or maybe hardware level, sorry, the operating system level, if there's any operating system not hardened enough, I want to be alerted for that as well. Click on next. Now this is where I'm doing my assessment testing. So what is a template? So assessment has a template, and template is a predefined set of instructions that is being instructing to inspectors to say check these things. So here this is one template is security best practices, then it's common vulnerability exposures, CVE, network reachability, and whether network is open, and CIS operating system benchmark. You can pick all of them, but for now, for this particular testing, I am just doing network reachability, so I'm removing these because I think there is based on the rule package you might be charged. So we are removing this because it's a test environment. We just want network reachability, whether if there's any problem with this network related. Now you can also see how often it should run. So duration is assessment of the target instance for this. So the assessment template duration is 1 hour. Because we are testing it for 15 minutes. So how long it will run based on that. So we are saying 15 minutes. In your production environment, you might want to run it for an hour or so. And then you also want to say set up this recurring assessment. So you click on say uncheck it and say if you don't want to run every 7 days. It's always good practice to set it up and run every 7 days. But we are doing it for test environment, and we'll terminate these resources. Otherwise, in practice, you want to make sure that it runs every 7 days, or at least whatever frequency you want to run it. Click on next. So this is my review stage, which says that I want to run it for all the environments that has production value, and I'm doing network reachability rule package. So whether there is any network related issues, click on create. And behind the scene, what it's doing is that our assessment run started. So what it has done is it has done assessment target, which is target is 1, which is saying the tag for an environment is tag. Any EC2 instances that has a tag environment is equal to production. Run this template, and template name is network reachability, and then any assessment runs will be running here. So the output will be coming here, and it will run every 15 minutes, and this is where my findings will be. So it will tell me any high risk, medium risk, or low risk. So if you see under high, it's collecting the data for this particular package. And if you see here, it is highlighted saying that on this instance, TCP port 21, which is associated with FTP, is reachable from the internet. You can install the inspector agent on this and rerun assessment to check any processes listening on this port number. And we can even run further test and see if there's any FTP process or any process running on 21. So right now it's open, but the port number 21 may not be running, but if any FTP port is running, it will inform us as well. So the fact that the port 21 is open itself is highlighted as a high risk. Like that, you can go and look at the medium risk. If there's any medium risk, a medium risk is 22, which is a secure port number 22. So the communication between over the internet is over encrypted but still open port number 22. So it's still risky, but not that risky because it's on encrypted message. So that's medium. And then let's see if there's any low one. Low one is port number 80. Again, the web server, usually you leave it open, but it's low. Ideally, you should have done on port number 443. And then these are more informational related, that what exactly we are doing more for information purpose. So that my inspector has alerted me now all these issues. So this is my findings, and we've already seen run. Now we can apply the fix and rerun this. So I can go to this environment again and then disable or remove or delete this port number 21 and then run it again and see what my output, do I still get that output. So I'll go back to EC2, click on EC2 here and go to instances, click on the instance for which has a prod in the tag, click on this, go to security, go to the security group, and then we'll say edit inbound rule, and I want to delete this rule which is port number 21, and because my port number 80 is not running as well, or maybe let's suppose I restrict and or leave it, yeah, so just save it here and click on save rule. So FTP is gone now, and now I run inspector again, and then under assessment run I'll click one more time run assessment runs, and we'll select this run and say run this. This was the one which executed earlier. So now the second one, assessment run, which will tell me the finding, how many findings are. Let it refresh. So this was my old one. So assessment runs. If you see now, it has 3 findings. The high one is gone now from here, which is for port number 21. Findings are 3, and let's look at those 3 findings. So medium, low, and information. The high one, which was for port number 21, is gone now. It's no more available. So this way we have tested it now that it has removed. You could have also automated that, and you could have instructed Amazon Inspector to delete that as well. That couldn't do. And finally, we are ready to tear down the resources that we've created. So we'll delete the inspector. We'll do the delete the assessment template, and we'll also terminate this EC2 environment. So I'll go back, and first I'll go to assessment targets, select it from here, and then delete this assessment target. Similarly, I'll go to assessment template, and so that is already, the minute I deleted target, it has deleted the template as well. And then assessment runs are gone as well from here. Now I'll simply go to EC2 environment, and I'll terminate that EC2 instance because I don't want to be charged. I've done my work here. I'll go to the instances, select the instance that you want to terminate, that you created just now, and then click on terminate instance. Click on terminate instance, click on terminate, and if you refresh after some time, it will say that shutting down and will terminate. So that way we have completed this lab on configuring Inspector or Amazon Inspector to highlight any security vulnerabilities on an EC2 instance so that we can be notified of the issues that it has already identified. With that, make sure you do this lab.
So guys, I hope you really liked our session and it was really helpful for you. And if you could not understand any of the things or any of the terms that our trainers discussed, then we have something really special for you. We have our free class on AWS Security Specialty Certification along with a demo. In this free class, you'll be learning about cloud for security professionals, what and why. You'll be learning about security services in AWS Cloud. Also, you'll be getting a demo to secure application access on cloud using WAF. You'll be getting across 25 hands-on labs, many sample exam question and answers, and a lot of things. So if you really want to enroll for this free class, then all you have to do is just log on to K21Academy.com/AWS SEC02. And after that, you just have to click on book your free skit now. You can select your event date, add your name, add your email address, add your phone number, and click on Yes, Save My Seat. Moving ahead, you just have to save this URL on the extreme right and add it to your calendars, and I'll see you in the free class. Till then, take care and keep hustling.